Hey guys, Eddie back with Couch Talk. Welcome back to the show. If it's your first time here, as always, welcome to the show. We're going to be continuing our series on the Bill of Rights today, going over the immensely important Second Amendment. So before we get started, please hit like, please hit subscribe below. I just cannot tell you how appreciative I am for each and every one of my subscribers, each and every one of my opportunities to both open up a dialogue with someone new and have them open up a discourse with me. So please hit those notification buttons and we'll get started. All right. Second Amendment, I'll read it out to you. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So there you have it. The right to bear arms enshrined in the Bill of Rights. So terribly important. If you'll remember from the first video, this is all reacting to the Revolutionary War. It's reacting to the tyrannical control of the British government. As a matter of fact, more immediately in this case, as the Battle of Lexington and Concords, the first salvos of the Revolutionary War were fought specifically over the interaction of the British military moving into position to seize the private arms of the citizenry. And of course, shot heard around the world, and then the rest, as you know, is history. But I want to be clear about this amendment. As it was then, this amendment is intended to protect our right to bear arms, not to protect ourselves in the subway, not to defend ourselves against somebody that might happen to break into our house, although those are both very good, very important uses. No, this amendment is our right to bear arms to defend ourselves against the government of the United States of America. I'm going to say that again. It is to protect ourselves against the government of the United States of America. And I think, with respect to this amendment and the attacks that have been launched against it, I think that very key point has been lost on us in recent years. There's a famous speech by President Biden from not long ago in which he made a very factually incorrect statement saying that, back then we had the right to bear arms. We could have an arquebus, but we couldn't have a cannon. And not only was he incorrect, but the person who helped write the Bill of Rights, James Madison, actually specifically gave many people the express right to bear cannons. And in fact, cannons, there weren't many firearms back then, and cannons were one of the few, so it wouldn't have made sense to reduce our very, very small gun count by another arm. Now, of late, the chief arm that is under attack is the AR-15. It has a decent rate of fire, especially for a rifle. And let's be clear about this. It is a rifle. It is not a machine gun. It doesn't have an automatic fire option. And if someone turns it into a machine gun, it is illegal anyway. But let's put things in perspective. Okay, an AR-15 might get you a rate of fire of somewhere around 45, 50 rounds per minute. Okay, an M60 gets you a rate of fire around 600 rounds per minute. Okay, so this is not just something where you take an AR-15 and then you can light up an entire army full of people. Yes, you can take out a lot of people with it. Yes, that is what it is designed to do. And again, we need this against the government of the United States of America. But you know what? Not only the government of the United States of America. This amendment gives us an additional protection that I think a lot of people overlook, and that is it also makes our country well fortified against an invasion. If, for example, the might of the American military is ever overcome, and I pray that it isn't, but guys, no empire lasts forever. It will be overcome someday, and one day we may be invaded. Well, how much easier is it to take over the rest of the country if nobody has firearms inside the country? But if everybody in the country has a Glock, a shotgun, and an AR-15, we're going to be in pretty good shape. Even against some pretty stiff invasion forces, we'd be impressive. And it would make fighting for every inch inside our country a very difficult prospect. So that is why it says for the security of a free state. But the anticipation, of course, is that we just need it to keep our government from infringing upon our rights. And in order to protect those rights, if the government ever decides, well, you know what, to heck with your rights, we are going to take them over anyway, and we're going to control all of you, the only way we can stop them is with this right to bear arms. So it is absolutely essential. There have been some abuses of this in the past. As a matter of fact, President Clinton's probably the most famous, signing the federal assault weapons ban into play in, I believe, 1994, if I'm not incorrect. It was a 10-year ban. Now, here's what they don't tell you. After we took away assault weapons from the public, not only did it really not remove all the assault weapons, it kind of tried to. It did its best, but, many of those weapons sort of retained their active position on the market, and just they kind of made some modifications so that it didn't quite fit the bill of an assault weapon, but still kind of was an assault weapon. But in truth, mass shootings didn't go down. Most criminologists will tell you that we had, as a matter of fact, they probably went up, although, of course, populations also rose, so it wouldn't be fair to say that proportionately it increased by much, if at all. It was probably about static with the population. What they don't tell you, though, is that 75% of all mass shootings are conducted with a handgun anyway. Keep in mind, the definition for a mass shooting is pretty all-encompassing. It's only like 3 people in a public space. So, that would include most gang fights, a lot of individual crimes that are, where just multiple people are the target. So it kind of, it's been kind of watered down a little bit. But I want to be clear about when we talk about this, guys, I don't want anybody to misunderstand it. Every single life is important to me. Every single life is important to me. And I don't want people to think that those lives are less important simply because they have become a statistic. And I think both sides of the aisle make this mistake. I think that Democrats make the mistake of thinking that Republicans don't care about mass shootings. I don't know a single Republican that wants people to be shot. And I don't think, likewise, that I know a single Democrat that doesn't care about freedoms. But it's important to weigh those against each other and understand that on either side of that scale, you have lives. And it's important to note that, because the reaction I get from most Democrats that are in favor of imposing heavy gun restrictions is that I don't care about the lives that are lost in mass shootings, and nothing could be further from the truth. But to throw some numbers at you, you need to understand what kind of lives we have in the balance on each side. Since the inception of mass shootings as a terminology, there have been roughly 1,000 deaths. Little bit over, and probably as many injuries from that same phenomenon. And we're going on 50 years now of history. Now understand that if you do some quick math of the age of America, that puts us at about 25 deaths a year. You're looking at a large number of lives lost. But nowhere in the vicinity of the number of lives lost in the Revolutionary War, nor will it ever get to that point. I mean, I hope it does. I hope that if it does, that means America has truly had a long life, and that would be an impressive empire. But you'd have to go 400, 500, 600, 700 years into the future before you actually hit that break-even point. And that's considering the populations back then. If you were to adjust for the populations today, I mean, if we were to fight another Revolutionary War, God save us from it. Please don't ever make that come to exist. But if we did, the lives lost would be in the millions. There would be no way that even the large number of gun deaths total in the Americas could really come close to that kind of level of conflict. And so, because this protects us against just such a level of contact, that's what we need to balance on the other side of that scale, right? So, yes, there are some mass shootings, and yes, they are horrible. And nobody wants to see anybody die, especially not in some of these are terrible cases. Like some guy goes in and shoots up a school, and it breaks my heart. But by the same token, that's nothing compared to losing 20 million in a new revolutionary war. I pray that it never comes to pass. But it is because of that this amendment is so vitally important. I'm going to quote you Benjamin Franklin. He said that a man who places security over freedom deserves neither. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but you get the point. The point is that you can't put a value on this freedom. You can't put a value on lives lost, but you also can't put a value on this freedom. And this freedom is worth lives. Believe me when I say that. So please don't forget the lives lost and the terrible tragedies in the country. And please also don't forget the terrible tragedy of the Revolutionary War the last time it happened. And don't forget the potential tragedy of a future Revolutionary War, and understand that this is why this amendment exists. Want to touch up on one more thing before we go to the next Bill of Rights, the next article of the Constitution, and that is that one of the things that's overlooked in this amendment a lot is the well-regulated militia, and I got to give Governor DeSantis, I'm not pronouncing his name right, praise for reenacting the State Guard in Florida. I thought that was an admirable use of his power, and I think that it is an example that every single State of the Union should follow. I think that is what is necessary for the true security of a free state, and to truly make sure that the government doesn't usurp its authority, the authority of the local government systems again. Guys, please comment below. Please tell me what you think. Please give me your reactions to this. I know this is going to be a charged topic. I know that nobody wants to have gun deaths on their conscience, and there are tons of them that happen every year. But understand that this freedom is not something that I would ever sell for any number of pieces of security, for any number of pieces of legislation, for any number of lives. I would fight with my life for it. I know many who would. This freedom is just so incredibly potent and so incredibly necessary to our freedom, to our safety, to the security against our government taking over control again. Let me know what you think below. Catch y'all next time.